Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. You're going to be hearing another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest running community podcast in our 20th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. They have been doing great things for more than 60 years in our region on so many different wonderful causes. We're thrilled to have in the studio with us today the CEO of the Oceanside Chamber of Commerce, Scott Ashton. How you doing, Scott?
I'm great. Thank you so much for inviting me here today.
No, there's just so much great content. How many members do you folks have in the chamber?
We have about 600 members, but we have, in addition to that, probably 100 plus other businesses that we serve in a variety of capacities, which I'll share a little bit about.
No, we're looking forward to doing that. I'm joined by a guest co-host, I'd say Chase Lastney. He is a freshman at San Diego State University, and he has a question for you.
So, Scott, can you tell us a little bit about the mission of your organization?
Yeah, the mission is very simply to provide advocacy and resources to help businesses in our community thrive. We made it short enough for me to memorize.
No, that all makes sense, and we love to highlight those chambers in our region. We mentioned Chris Thorne's name earlier, and actually I was a member of North San Diego Business Council a zillion years ago, and other chambers as well. And all the chambers, including the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce, all trying to work together in that aspect. And I think one of the big misnomers out there and myths is that the chambers, boy, this is my territory, and you better not cross the line. That can't be as far from the truth.
Yeah, we have, first of all, we have a great relationship with our neighboring chambers. You mentioned Chris. Chris and I and several other North County Chamber CEOs get together for breakfast once a month to share ideas and just to support each other. And there are many businesses that will belong to multiple chambers because we all have different things that we offer in different lanes, and we provide those businesses opportunities to engage within our community. So you're absolutely right. It's not really a competitive environment. It's very collaborative.
Yeah, and I think anyone who's worked with chambers or any organization, it's all about relationships, and we all know this. And you got to have relationships, whether you're meeting face-to-face or you're having Zoom meetings, whatever the case may be, but it's constantly getting there to know who's doing what, know what businesses are, those 600 plus, and how we can help them. Talk about how important that relationship is.
Yeah, that's a big focus of building my staff, is finding people that are able to be out there and make those relationships in the community, and that's a big part of my focus, especially with our city leadership and our business community, because they need to know each other, and myself and my staff can be a conduit to bring those people together. So for us to be out there regularly building and maintaining those relationships with our city leadership and on a regional basis is very, very important.
Yeah, and there's probably not any type of industry, whether it's education or nonprofits or government, that a chamber doesn't touch, from universities on.
Oh, absolutely. We have a very, very diverse membership, and you mentioned several of them. Healthcare is a big part of it, and
right.
Manufacturing. The restaurant industry is the actually largest single industry that we serve in our community. And second is the nonprofit community.
Yeah, that makes sense. We just had our friends on from the Veterans Beer Club, Phil Kendro, co-founder, and Sean Mulrooney, the chapter lead. Obviously, Oceanside, everyone equates that to Camp Pendleton and so forth on it. How much is the military tied into the chamber?
We have a very strong relationship with the military, and one of our longest time events is our Armed Forces Day Operation Appreciation, which we created in 2002, and we'll be holding again in a couple of weeks on Saturday, May 16th. And it's a day of appreciation for our military families. We provide free food, entertainment, children's activities for our local military families, and thousands of them will join us for that event. It's at the Oceanside Pier Amphitheater. We take over that whole footprint down there. We have several food vendors feeding these families, and musical entertainment, and a big fun zone for their kids. So, and then beyond that, we have a monthly military affairs forum just to make sure our members are able to connect with what's going on in base. We'll bring in military leadership as well as military serving nonprofits to connect with our members and make sure that we can support them in any way possible.
Now, do you work with some of the school districts up there? I know Bonsall Unified School District, a friend of ours was recently a superintendent. Now he's working down the County Office of Education. Do you work with that group at all?
Well, we work really closely with the Oceanside Unified School District.
Okay, sure.
And
Sure.
I'll share about our Rising Star program.
Please.
Yep. So back in 2021, we started what's called our Rising Star Student of the Month program, which is now in several chambers in North County. It actually started in the Vista Chamber about 12 years ago. We brought it to Oceanside in 22. And what the program is focused on is giving students from our 5 local high schools the opportunity to share their stories. So every month, each of the schools chooses a senior graduating student as their rising star. And these are students that have been through serious adversity. And you can imagine what kids go through in life, everything from losing a parent to addiction issues, homelessness, poverty, and so on. But these kids have overcome, and they're there to share their story to the business community. We have city leadership that comes. The mayor's usually there, fire chief, police chief. And these kids are just bravely sharing their stories of what they've been through, how they've overcome, and how they're leading their peers right now. So we have five students do that every month from September through March. And then at the end of the school year, we invite all of those students to apply for our scholarships through our Oceanside Chamber Foundation. So this past Tuesday, we had the honor of giving out $52,500 in scholarships to 28 students.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So, and altogether, we've recognized and given scholarships to over 100 students since the program began, and for about $200,000 total. So we're continuing to raise funds, and 100% of the funds that we raise for scholarships go right to the students.
And do they stay locally? They can go wherever they want.
They can go wherever they want, but we do find that a lot of these students are staying local. They're going Maricosta, Cal State, or starting a business. So no matter what they're doing, if they're going into the military, they are still eligible for our scholarships. It doesn't just have to be the college path.
Right. We're chatting with Scott. Scott Ashton is the CEO of the Oceanside Chamber of Commerce. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. My guest co-host today is Chase Lesney. He is a freshman at San Diego State University, and he has a question for you, Scott.
So Scott, it seems like overall we're doing a lot of great things with the Chamber, doing community outreach, education, and also can you tell us a little bit about the Oceanside Leadership Academy?
Yes, actually we launched our Leadership Academy in 2022, and it was part of our strategic planning session with our board of directors. So we went into the planning mode. We realized as a Chamber of Commerce that we need to be involved in helping prepare leaders for leadership roles in our, whether it be in city government, city commissions, within their own business, nonprofit boards. So we spent the year of 2022 planning for that and launched our academy in 2023. Our idea was just to run it every spring, but the applications came rolling in real quickly, and we realized there was more of a demand than we can handle in just the spring. So we created a fall cohort, and ever since we've run 2 cohorts a year. And we just launched our 7th cohort this past Saturday. We always start off with a Saturday morning leadership panel discussion where we have leaders from various sectors sharing their philosophies and how they've led during times of challenge. And then we have 8 or 9 consecutive Thursday evening 3-hour sessions that do a deep dive into what leadership looks like in various sectors that drive our community. So our first one will be next Thursday, where we do our leadership in the military session, but following sessions will include leadership in healthcare, the nonprofit sector, tourism and hospitality, STEM technologies, public safety, and more. So our cohort members get really a broad look at what leadership looks like within our entire community.
So you've been with the organization for 30 years, okay?
Yeah.
So good for you.
Yes.
That's wonderful. 20, certainly serving in business development, and the last 10 as a CEO in this area. So talk about, turn back the clock 30 years ago, and this is what we focused on, and this is what the issues were of our member businesses, to where we are now 30 years. That could be a 15-hour discussion and wouldn't even come close to talking about it,
Yeah, it's changed quite a bit. So when I came to the chamber in 1996, it was largely a military serving community, and they still play a very important role in our community, but things have diversified quite a bit. One of our first projects in downtown Oceanside was the Regal Cinema project, and that was a big deal to get that in downtown Oceanside. That property last year just got approved to be torn down and redeveloped as a mixed-use development, and so things have changed slowly but quickly in a way.
Exactly.
But now tourism really drives our local economy. Right. Last numbers I saw were, I think, in the range of $650 million in annual visitor spending, benefiting our local businesses. You'd think that a big percentage of that is hotels, but I think it's probably about 30% of that is accommodations, and the rest of it is going into supporting restaurants, retailers, museums, all different types of businesses.
Well, anyone who spent any time in this county and has seen what has happened in Oceanside, boy, some of the more transformative things that have come up in that area, and certainly kudos to all of the folks, whether it's the chambers, it's the city council, it's the supervisors, it's everybody in between. You folks have just done a great job on that. Is there a certain area where you're getting more, questions from your member businesses? Boy, we really need more help on fill in the blank, whether it's insurance or whether it's finance or whether it's AI or something, or not really. They're all over the board.
It is all over the board, but there are some consistent challenges that business face with the regulatory environment in the state of California. It's a very challenging place to run a business, but we find our businesses are finding a way to prosper. Right. But for most of our small retail businesses and restaurants and so on, it's just they need the assistance in marketing and finding that next customer to come in their door.
Right. We all know this, better than anybody, that of the 80,000 businesses in San Diego County, and depending on what number you're going to use, it fluctuates. It's the small businesses that are the bread and butter that are contributing. Nothing against the big ones, SDG&E and Qualcomm and all that, but that's few and far between. But talk about how it's the small businesses that literally the fiber, whether it's up in Oceanside or it's in Chula Vista or in between.
Yeah, absolutely. They provide the bulk of the jobs in our region. So in Oceanside, we have probably about 3,500 brick and mortar businesses, and then thousands of more home-based businesses, probably 2,000 to 3,000. It's hard to keep a track exactly on that.
Exactly.
It is. We really appreciate our larger businesses and the role that they play in our community. But the small businesses, the majority of our members have 10 or fewer employees, and but that's. That's where the biggest challenges lie. Like a lot of the state legislation that used to just apply to the bigger businesses have come down to the smaller businesses. And just as a tangible example, like any business with one or more employees now has to have a retirement plan in place for their employees. So, you can imagine how those, they get the foot in the door. We'll say, it only applies to businesses with 100 employees. And then the next legislative cycle, it's 50 and then 25. And so those types of things make their way down down to the smallest of businesses. And the chamber itself is a business. And I've kind of taken more of a role in operations over the last couple of years than I have in the past, and I'm learning how difficult it is to just stay in compliance as a small business.
Well, and it's no different than we do a show also that focuses on the 43 school district superintendents, or the school districts, called Future Pathway Superintendents Unplugged. And so we always love having the smalls, so to speak, districts that have maybe only 40 schools versus them that have 120, whatever the case may be. But the smalls, just like the small businesses, it's you. I mean, you are you are the custodian, you are the CEO, you are the marketer, you are the doing the audits and all that. And that's why the chambers, you guys play such great roles in providing that assistance to them on that, especially in the finance side, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why we lean a lot on our colleagues in our neighboring chambers to learn best practices as to how they're supporting their members, how we can bring some of those practices into our community. I mentioned the nonprofits earlier. It is a big segment of our membership. So we started about 2 or 3 years ago doing workshops for nonprofits, just to assist them in everything from capacity building to grant writing and marketing and so on. So that's been a big hit, and we've attracted nonprofits from all over San Diego County to attend those workshops, and we're just kicking off our next series this month.
Yeah, and we'll come back. We're going to continue the conversation with Scott Ashton, CEO of Oceanside Chamber of Commerce, talk about the big event they have coming up with the Armed Forces Day operation. And, Scott, we always save some time in the second half of the interview. What can our listeners do to support your efforts when we return after this short message?
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg with Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community show. We are the nation's longest running community podcast in our 20th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. 60 plus years of doing just great things in our region. Financial literacy, food insecurity, the homeless, they are just with you shoulder to shoulder. Honored to have in the studio with us today Scott Ashton. He's the CEO of the Oceanside Chamber of Commerce, joined by my guest co-host Chase Lasney. He is a freshman at San Diego State University. Again, talk about the big event that's coming up, Armed Forces.
Yeah, so again, that's something that we started over 20 years ago. We only missed 1 year, and I bet you can guess why we missed 2021.
Of course, everyone did.
Yeah. So, but it's been a staple in our community. It's very well supported. We have sponsors from all over the country that actually come out and support this event. And it's just a day of appreciation for these local families that do so much and sacrifice so much. Again, we bring in one of the highlights is if you know where the School of Infantry is, it's in the kind of the northeast part of the base off of Basilone Road.
No, I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah, so those are some of the youngest Marines, and they're isolated out there. I think they're spending 12 weeks out there. So what we do is we've traditionally rented buses from our school district, and I think last year it was like 8 buses that we brought up to the School of Infantry to bring those young Marines down to our event. And one of the coolest things is seeing them all get off the buses and come down for the opening ceremonies. Usually the commanding general of the base is there to speak, and these are a rowdy bunch of young Marines, but as soon as the general takes the stage, you can hear a pin drop, and he has their full attention, and it's a great way to kick off the event. And we also have many of our legislators that will come out and join us on stage and just share some words of appreciation and encouragement. And then we move on into open up the food hall and just feed these young Marines and sailors and their families.
No, I think that's great. Jason, another question you have for Scott?
Yeah, can you also tell us a little bit about the Oceanside USA 250 Festival?
Yes, for sure. So as you can imagine, as a chamber, we have a small staff and a full plate.
Always the case.
Yeah, we were not necessarily looking to add another event this year, but Supervisor Desmond came to us and asked us if we would consider co-hosting a USA 250 festival, and we could not pass up that opportunity. It's literally a once in a lifetime opportunity. So we said yes, and we've been working diligently to put that together over the last 6 months. And it's hard to believe, with it being May 1st, that we can now say that event is coming up next month. But it will be on Saturday, June 27th in the afternoon. So the day kicks off with Main Street Oceanside running their annual Independence Parade, and their parade ends right around noon, and our event starts at noon, and they're right in the same area. So our event is the kind of cornerstone of our event is the Americana theme. So we'll have country music festival. We'll have a huge fun zone for families. Everything's free for the kids. Everything in the fun zone. We'll have over 100 or so arts and craft and food vendors. And then on the north footprint of our event, there's a community center, and we will have a chili cook-off featuring Police Against Fire. So we'll see who has the best chili. But it'll be a fun afternoon, very family-oriented event, and the whole thing is taking place at the Junior Seau Pier Amphitheater area.
I think one of the things that you folks are really lazy on, and the businesses are too, and that is, how do these businesses retain employees, all right?
Mm-hmm.
And especially when there's a small business and you've invested so much time training a person, and then the person goes. I mean, that's part of life. We understand that.
Yeah.
But can be absorbed a little bit better for some of the bigger companies in this, but can't be absorbed with the smaller companies. My goodness. Talk about how you work with some of the chamber members on that.
Yeah, so we've experienced that ourselves as a small business, that there's always somebody that can pay our team members more. So part of it is just trying to create a meaningful environment for our staff, and that includes, and just to get back to your question about like how we help the businesses. I think part of it is just setting the example as an organization in how we do it, and that's by providing a great environment for our employees where they can thrive, where they have meaningful work, where they have the flexibility they need, work-life balance, and so on. But yet, for a lot of, it's not only for the businesses; it's also for in our public safety realm. There's a lot of competition for our employees in Oceanside, and we're just doing our best to try to create that great environment. We have a very good quality of life in Oceanside, which definitely helps in keeping employees. But there's also a variety of issues, like housing is a big issue. The chamber's consistently a big advocate for the development of housing in our community, because many of our employers are telling us that their employees have to live South Riverside County, and getting further and further away. So we're big advocates for housing. There are some strong voices against building new housing in Oceanside, and we've we make sure that we're that pro-housing voice.
Well, and you think about this, and obviously unless somebody's been living in a different solar system, gas prices in our region is just skyrocketed.
Yes.
I get such a kick when you hear the national news. The average is $4 a gallon. Really? $4 a gallon? Where's that? But it's not here. And but think about it. That, you add up this, now you're living in Temecula, you're 50, 60 miles away, Try doing that every 4 seconds when gas has gone up quite a bit on this aspect of it. Do you work with some of the businesses to, if they need some help, financial support, to offset some of their costs, or not really?
We don't. We will try to find places to direct them.
Exactly.
The Small Business Development Center is a great resource. During COVID, actually, we did run a grant program, but that was a one-off. But we were able to help a lot of businesses weather that storm. But most of it is pointing businesses to other resources, and that's a big part of what we do, is serve as a clearinghouse to help people find the resources that will allow their businesses to thrive.
Right. So, Scott, what can our listeners do to support you?
Well, there's a lot of opportunities to do that. So you can visit our website, oceansidechamber.com, where we have the major events that we talked about, the Armed Forces Day Operation Appreciation and the 250 USA Festival. We need volunteers to support those events. For our Rising Star program, we love scholarship donations.
Right.
And again, that goes into our Oceanside Chamber Foundation. 100% of those dollars go directly to the students. So there's a variety of ways to.
And you were mentioning one of the programs you do that you folks have sort of kicked off is now around the county those folks use, right? And I forget which one you were mentioning on this, that something you had started that everyone's taking advantage of it, not for people living just in Oceanside.
Oh, the nonprofit work?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I encourage people, just there's no boundaries. We were talking about Chris Thorne recently. He's a good friend of Cloudcast Media and what we do, and Chris runs the North San Diego Business Chamber. It's sort of a misnomer. He's got 835 members, and they're all over the place, for God's sake. And he's got to figure out, do I change the name of the chamber, because we're not just North San Diego Chamber and all that, and you folks all work so well together on that. So I encourage everyone to go to the website, support your local chambers, Oceanside, obviously where Scott is, but Vista as well, and Escondido, all through this aspect of it, and of course the San Diego Regional Chamber as well. Shout out the website one more time, Scott.
Yeah, it's oceansidechamber.com.
Well, I hope you come back on. And why don't you bring in a couple member organizations that can shout out what they're doing. And choose maybe different, maybe one that focuses on a nonprofit, one that focuses on education or whatever. Would love to shout them out as well.
Great. We'd love to do that.
We're going to look forward to your return appearance. Scott Ashton, CEO of the Oceanside Chamber of Commerce. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, and been listening to Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest running community podcast in our 20th year. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. Chase, lastly, how did you enjoy being a guest co-host?
Overall, really interesting. I think that we really need to give a lot more support to these smaller businesses, especially now with these huge companies just taking up like all of the revenue. There's really we need to create a better place for that to happen. So I think you're doing amazing work. I'm really pleased to hear about all these amazing festivals we got going on. What day was the
Armed Services Day was
Saturday, May 16th.
May 16th.
May 16th, and then of course he's got Oceanside 250 is in June 27th.
June 27th.
June 27th. Yeah. Scott Ashton, enjoyed chatting with you. We're going to look forward to your return appearance, and to our listeners, we hope you enjoyed the interview.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.